Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I'm so happy you're with us today. Oh, my dear ones, as some of our guests have shared with us recently, even, there is no loss, I think, quite so heartbreaking as the loss of a child. And our guest today, Kim Hodous, has lost two children, but she didn't just survive what were really unthinkable tragedies each time. She transformed them, and she let them, in turn, transform her own life. Kim is the author of a brand new book called Beyond Grief: How a Son's Afterlife Connection Transformed a Mother's Loss into a Remarkable Spiritual Journey. I love that title and I love her story. In that book, she shares the beautiful, continuing, ongoing relationship of her with her son, Rob, who is beyond the veil, but that's a pretty thin veil nowadays. And her work dismantles our culture's limiting understanding of grief and reveals it to be really not an ending at all, but instead it's a kind of initiation right now into deeper spiritual truths. And Rob is more living than ever. He's more alive than he ever was. Through our ongoing communications with Rob, Kim has become a translator of his profound messages about love, purpose, and the eternal nature of our souls. And she brings to us what he has given to her. Our teachings, our teachings on reincarnation, on spiritual evolution, and the permeable boundary between life and death offer what she calls, and which what I'm sure are, revolutionary comfort to those who are walking the path of loss. And not just loss of children, sometimes losses of parents can be just as awful. Kim's approach is refreshingly honest. She doesn't minimize grief. I mean, I don't think it's possible really to minimize grief, and it's insulting when we try. Instead, platitudes she doesn't offer. Nothing can make less the horrible thing that's happened to you if it happens to you. But instead, she illuminates how authentic connection with our departed loved ones can coexist with deep healing, spiritual awakening, and even eventually, believe it or not, with profound joy that we haven't lost our loved one at all. Her message is clear. Death is not separation. Rather, it's transformation, and love is the eternal thread that binds us across all dimensions of existence. Oh, Kim, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
I am just really so happy to be here and so honored to be invited to join with you and all your listeners. So thank you.
Well, I just think the kind of story you have to tell is so comforting to so many people because I mean, I've had a long practice of law, and I've always practiced for business owners. And I've got to tell you, there are some people for whom the loss of a child is a life sentence. There was one family, I walked into their living room because I visit with the owners of the businesses, and right in the middle of their living room was this gigantic portrait of a young woman. I said, "Oh. What happened? Why is this here? Oh, we lost our daughter." Well, it came out she had died 20 years ago, and her portrait was still the only major painting in that room, and it was standing on a tripod in the middle of that living room. And they had three other children. Now, I'm sorry. I can't begin to tell you that I just think that is profoundly unhealthy. I really do. But what can you say? I mean, what can you say? So knowing how you have used this wonderful opportunity, which your son has given you to grow spiritually and really I mean, you have two surviving children, right?
I had five children altogether. So
Oh, so you have three more children.
right. So I've got two in spirit and two still
Yeah,
walking the planet.
yeah. I mean, to me, think of how awful this is. They had other children, but they still had this Two decades later, they still had this big portrait in the middle of their living room.
Yeah.
But what you have done instead is to give all of us, and your children too, this opportunity to live in the joy of knowing that life is eternal. And that is the most beautiful gift you can give to anybody, to all of us today, but also to your own children. What a beautiful
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I'm
Yes.
eager to hear your story. I know a little bit about it, of course,
Yeah.
but your daughter died when she was two of leukemia.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And I was just 30 years old. So I was obviously in a very different place than I was 30 years later when Rob died. I had four children in 4 years. So when Chelsea died, I still had three kids under the age of 5.
Yeah,
And so I wasn't well, and I hadn't didn't have the life experience and the capacity
yeah, it's hard.
that I do today. The beautiful thing is that Rob has explained and laid it all out to me. And my book is a lot of when Rob and I first started communicating, it was merely him, consoling me, explaining that this was no accident, that everything was perfect, that it came down the way it was supposed to. And he explained how he, Chelsea, and I all, agreed to this before we incarnated. And then after he had shared a lot
But
of
let's
personal mess.
make people understand that. It
Okay.
was not an accident. No, he died of a drug overdose. He was 29, I think.
Correct. Yeah. He died of
Okay.
a fentanyl overdose.
And he got in touch with you.
Mhm.
How did that happen?
Well, so one of my very good friends is a gifted psychic.
Luckily.
She
Wow.
doesn't, yeah, well, she doesn't do it professionally, but she is known since she was 4. And it was never personal for me because I never, I knew she had that gift, but it just wasn't part of our friendship. And Rob also had a pest control business. He was a tennis pro. He had a pest control business and he sprayed her house. So she knew Rob very well. So after Rob died, he immediately went to her and started talking to her. And some days she would call me twice in one day and go, Kim, I'm so sorry to bother you. And I'm like, every time I would see her number, I don't care
It didn't
what I was
bother
in the middle.
me.
Yeah, yes, yes. She's like, do you mind if I share another message? I'm like, no, please. And so shared so she kept giving me these messages. And one day I was kind of having a little pity party for myself. And I said, Eve, I so appreciate this, but I'm just kind of pissed that you keep getting to talk to him and I don't. I want to talk to him direct. I don't want to have to go through you. And she said, open your computer tomorrow morning and he'll be there. Well, I have meditated. I'm not a great meditator. I have a love-hate relationship with it, but for at least 30 years, I dabble in it and I journal. And so I thought instead of journaling, so I got my coffee, I had my seat, I kind of did my little meditation. I opened my computer and I typed, Rob, Eve said, if I opened my computer, you would be here. And all I can tell you is that it was like, he was like, Mama, you made it. Yay. And off it went. And I
Oh,
sat there for like 4 hours that morning because I didn't know if it was one and done. I didn't know if this was it. So
yeah.
I didn't get up to go pee. I didn't get up to get more coffee. I just sat right there until, I had asked every question I could think of. And I knew it was time. I knew he was done. I was done. And then, of course, the next morning got up just as excited and there he was. And the next morning he was there for like 5 minutes. And then we just found our rhythm. We found our rhythm.
Isn't that beautiful? And he told you that you and he and Chelsea, who was the 2-year-old who had died, who now is a young adult, of
Mhm.
course, had made this plan that was part of your life plan for all three of you. I
Yes.
think it's important that people listening understand that this is a typical thing that people will do. They will plan this kind of life plan. Now, you have a sort of public life. You're a speaker and you
Yes.
you you do public things. So you're able to get the word to a lot of people that this is the kind of thing that people plan. And also, hey, my son has graduated early. He had planned this exit point and planned he was going to leave now. He didn't die early. He died
Yep.
right on time. He
Absolutely.
told you that.
Absolutely.
See,
Yes.
listen, everyone, this is how this stuff works.
Yeah.
There was no tragedy here at all.
Yeah.
This is how it works. Oh, how beautiful. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing that. There are so many hearts that are lifting just hearing that message.
Yeah, he explained to me very early on that I had to experience Chelsea's death 30 years ago because I work with mamas now in grief and helping them learn to connect with their children on the other side. And he said, in dealing with those mamas, I recognized myself 30 years ago. And he said, Mom, you didn't know it then, but this all got put in place 30 years ago because you had to experience that with Chelsea to know that you can get over it. I remember I was 30 years old. My daughter had died. And I remember somebody saying to me, Well, you'll never get over it. And I
Oh,
remember thinking, well, to hell with that. I'm
the hell
30.
with
Like,
that.
I got a long
Exactly.
runway. Like, I
I
got to get
have
over
a
this because,
life to live, and Chelsea wouldn't want me to sit with a picture, a bright big picture in the middle of my living room that I have to step around every single day of
yes.
my life. No.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel I have honored her. Well, I feel I've honored her. And for me, what is a much more productive way, which that was that
Oh,
I've
yeah.
always been a happy person. But when Chelsea died, I mean, obviously I was just devastated. I was crushed. I was gutted. And
Grief
in the
is a
part of my,
good and honorable thing.
yeah.
It's a gift that you give to the person you have lost. I'm so sorry that I've lost you, but I know you're in a much happier place, and I know it
Yes.
was a planned exit, even if you were only two.
Oh, it was definitely a planned exit. Her role was just as significant at Rob's, and she really put all of this in motion. And, it was her death that made me start to research happiness. It was like I was devastated. It's like, how do you find happiness again after a loss like this? And that changed my whole career. I had been a school teacher, and all of a sudden I decided I was going to stay at home and I was going to build a business and I was going to and then I started talking, and people were like, You're successful, you're happy after this big loss. How do you do it? And so it changed my whole career to becoming a
Yeah,
motivational speaker.
teach
And then,
mothers and help mothers to find their joy again.
yes, yeah,
And so that's
yes.
how this works, everybody. It's all meant to be part of our great joy. We are meant to give this to other people as joy. Yes.
Yeah. And I think I love standing as a beacon for those mothers who are still so deep in grief, and anybody, as you say, it's not just losing a child, but to know like I am such a happy person and I love my life. And yes, I've had these two tragedies and they are part of my story, but they are not my whole story.
Yes, yes, exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
When Rob was about 15, he started saying this was when YouTubers were coming out. You'd see these 18-year-olds buying Maseratis because they had some YouTube channel that blew up. And Rob started saying, Well, I'm going to retire by the time I'm 30. I'm going to retire by the time I'm 30. And, we just go, Great. Hope you'll have enough to take care of us too.
All right. That would be wonderful.
And
Yes.
yeah, but I bet I heard him say 500 times, 1,000 times, I'm going to retire by the time I'm 30. He died the month before he turned 30.
Yeah, well, he did retire.
He
Yeah.
did. And he knew, I obviously not on a conscious level, these soul
Very
contracts we
often
often don't
they will.
remember. Yeah.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
on some level he knew, so and I love that. To me, that's just again more affirmation. And I talk to so many moms and they're like, well, this happened or I got this sign, but I don't know if it was them. I'm like, yes, it is them,
It
it is
was,
them,
of
it is
course.
them.
Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Next week, our guest will be Mikey Morgan, who I think it's his 30-something time to be with us. And he was a sixth level being who was sorry about the way things were going on Earth. And he had not been on Earth since the 1600s. So in order to teach on Earth, knew he needed to come back for a short lifetime. So he came back for 20 years. And his mother used to say, be careful how you drive, be careful about this. And he said, Mom, I'm not going to live that long. He always knew. He died in a car crash when he was 20. That was his planned
Hmm.
exit, his last planned exit point. And now he teaches through her.
Yeah, I listened to one of their podcasts with you today. So yeah, it's
Yes.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Yes.
I have tested him and tested him. I didn't believe for 1 minute that the story this woman was telling me was true. But he has not only has he never made a mistake, very often I'll ask him a tricky question in the beginning, because I really did ask him a lot of tricky questions. Not only would he give me the right answer, but then he'd go a little farther and tell me something I may have suspected but didn't know. Because he
Uh-huh.
knew I was testing him. He's real. He's
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
real.
Well, I know. And it's funny because you say because I'm a motivational speaker, I have the opportunity to share this with so many people. I mean, I've spoken for corporations like Walmart and Toyota, but I speak on happiness, not this. And
Oh yeah.
it just brings, I am starting to come out of my shell because it's sometimes for me challenging to share this. I just started once the book came out. I now, because I share about Rob in my talk, because one of the things that I teach about happiness is gratitude. And,
He's
every
the
research
basis
study is
of
going to show,
happiness.
yeah,
Yeah.
that for genuine happiness, you have to have gratitude. And so I talk about Rob and Chelsea and how I still have gratitude. I have gratitude for their lives. I have gratitude for the 2 years with Chelsea, for the 29 with Rob. And I now hold up his book and share this experience. So I'm starting to put it out there more publicly, but it's been part of my inner work to do because it started as, such an intimate conversation with my son. And
Right.
right after he died, and I would tell people, even my family, they'd kind of like go, "Oh, well, today Rob said," and they just kind of look at me like, "Oh, mom's gone off the deep end." And so now they're realizing, okay, mom wasn't going off the deep end. Rob really was there. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's yeah, it's in my case, it's my husband who didn't know, it's my husband of 50 years, didn't know he was marrying someone who was going to do this kind of work. And when he first discovered it, he was appalled. And he would say to me, "Oh, okay, you do know you're going to hell, don't you?" And we've made a lot of progress in the
yes.
time since. But yeah, it's hard for some people to accept all of this. It really is. It can be very difficult. Um, but that's okay. I think that the kind of thing you are teaching, this combination of happiness and how to understand what's really going on and how to overcome grief, that's a powerful, powerful package you're teaching to people. I mean,
Sometimes
it's truth. I mean, you are teaching people truth, which our culture cannot teach, and it cannot teach because science is such a dead religion, which is what it is. It's a religion because in the very early part of the 20th century, mainstream science adopted materialism as what they called then the fundamental scientific dogma. Believe it or not, you could back if you look back 100 plus years ago, you can find those words in print. The fundamental scientific dogma is materialism. Anything with a dogma is a religion. So it's the religion of, atheism, basically. That's what science is. And it is that to this day. So what you are doing is you are countering in our culture this whole downer of a religion that has permeated the culture. So you are doing God's work, my dear. You are truly doing God's work. It's beautiful to see.
I know sometimes I wonder why I raised my hand for all this lifetime, but Rob has assured me I did, and I agreed to it all before we incarnated together. And
You
when
did.
yeah, it was funny
Oh my
because
God.
so we had been communicating for almost a year, and he had told me at that point, 7, 8 months in, it went from just personal messages to me because that first 7, 8 months was just when I went intense into my healing. And then he started to making more of a general, um, you know, lessons, because a lot of this book, there's a lot in here about grief, and I get so many beautiful comments from mamas about grief, but it's also life lessons about how we just live more richly and deeply and authentically. And we'd been communicating for about a year, and he came to me in a dream. I have only ever had this happen this one time. I don't know what to call it except a waking dream. It was like he and I were together.
Beautiful.
And so in this dream, he came to me and he said, Mom, I am going to give you a system. I'm meeting all these souls over here who want to communicate with their mamas the way we are, especially when you die. Rob
Of
wasn't
course.
married, he didn't have
That's the,
kids.
that's the thing they desperately want to do. They want to give reassurance to their grieving
Yes.
families they really are okay.
Yes, yes.
Please
And he
them.
said, I'm meeting all these souls who want to talk to their moms. And he said, so I'm going to give you a system to teach them how to connect. And
Great.
I said, oh, no, son. I'm like, you have done enough. You have already turned my world upside down. I'm not going to go out and teach a
You
class again.
said
I'm still.
no to
Oh, I
Rob.
said no. Yes. I said no. Because I mean, I speak in associations and corporations. I'm like, I am not going to be the one who raises their hand and goes, oh, yeah, I can help you talk to your dead kid. And he's like, yeah, Mom, you are going to do that.
Yeah,
And
yeah, you
it,
are.
yeah, it took him about 10 days. And all this is in the book, our conversations and our dialogue. And the thing that got me was when he said, Mom, there are so many kids over here banging on the veil. They're banging on they're sending their moms and they're all their loved ones. And whether it's your mom, your sister, your cousin, your grandparent, almost everybody I talk to gets messages. And they're like, they're
Yes,
sending them these messages, but they can't have the kind of in-depth conversations and get all their questions answered. And he said,
and
I'm
very
going to give you the
often
system.
people don't believe I can't believe it's really her. Or, oh, I mean, yeah, that is her favorite color that I keep seeing every day over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And yeah, I keep seeing license plates with his name on them. And oh, I mean, they tell me about all these great signs they're getting, but I can't really believe that. And I mean, I want to bob them over the head with my
Yeah.
computer and say, they're poor
Yeah.
kids. They're so
Yeah.
good. They're trying so hard.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I feel so blessed. So Rob has given me a system. In fact, my next course starts August 29th, where right now I'm just working with moms because I was so resistant to this. He said, Mom, we'll start with moms because you're a mom and I mean, I speak mainly to women. And he said, so we'll start with the mamas. And he said, that's going to be the easiest because there's nobody who more desperately wants to connect with their children than the mama. And I know there are dads and cousins and siblings that do too, but it's different when you're the mama. I mean, we carry our children's DNA in our physical bodies until
oh,
we
sure.
die. So, our kids are with us all the time. But what he said that finally got me, he said, they are banging on the veil. And he says to me, but Mom, how much noise does it make when you bang on a veil? None. And he said, they're banging on the veil, but their moms can't hear them. He said, you're going to find the mamas. I'm going to find the souls over here, and we're just going to connect them.
Oh,
And
bless
every
the
mother that has gone through
wonderful
my course, I
faces.
feel like I know their kids brought them there. There's no doubt their kid got them in my course so they could connect. So
Yeah.
it's been a beautiful experience.
Oh, my dear, how wonderful. Yeah, you can't say
Yes.
no to Rob. That's
Well,
terrible.
yeah, I could no more say no to him in spirit than I could on the earth. He was so persistent. He's such a, he was persistent when he was in a body, which is why he was so good in tennis and such a good tennis coach because he just would keep at it. But
Yeah,
man, he wasn't letting me off the hook. He would wake that week. We usually connected in the morning, but that week when I had said, Rob, I'm not doing this, he would wake me up at 1:30 in the morning, and I would
for
just like
him.
sit up in bed and be like, I want to sleep, Rob, and it would be like, get out of bed. We're talking some more. So finally, I
Be
relented, and
better. Yep,
it took him
absolutely.
about. Yeah, it took him about 8 months to give me the process. So now we're in full swing, and
And you're teaching it. Oh, I'm so glad. That is beautiful.
yeah, it is beautiful. It's beautiful to see those mamas get to have those connections and get the messages and the answers that they need for their
So you're
healing.
going to teach this as a repeated class?
Yes, my next one, I don't know when this will come out, but it starts August 29th of 2025. But you can go on my website and there are, I start a waiting list as soon as the first one fills up so that people can apply and get on the waiting list for the next one.
And all of this will be in the notes to this program. Oh my goodness, this is
Perfect.
wonderful. Yeah, no, this is what you were meant to do. And there's so much need for it too. It's just so important. And what
Yeah.
can he tell you about what it's like there? Because people ask me this question, and I have a lot of information which I've gathered through research, but does he give you anecdotes about what it's like to be there? He's happy to be there, right? I mean,
Oh my gosh, bliss. Just, I mean, such bliss. And just he can twirl and float and fly, and he can be in one place in one instance and another place in another instance. I mean,
that's
he
one
can
of the
be,
great things they tell us. Yes.
yeah, yeah. He also shared how everybody on that side has equal access to the love and the bliss. Like, it doesn't matter if you were a horrible human down here, everybody everybody has the same access to the love and the light up there, and that we come down here to earth school to learn lessons. And like so the drug dealer that sold him fentanyl, and he knew he was selling him fentanyl, and he told Rob it was heroin. Rob had been an addict, he had been clean for the last 2 years, and he said that this was he told Rob it was heroin and it was fentanyl, and he got sentenced to 38 years in prison without a chance of parole. He will be 71 when he gets out of
Oh my
prison.
goodness.
And the chapter in the book, it's the one that people always say, oh my gosh, I was just bawling and bawling and bawling through that chapter, because Rob just says, Mom, he's our soul family. He's as important in my journey as Rob's little brother Jordan was like his favorite person. And he's like, you got to love Nathan the same way you loved me. He's part of
Oh,
my family. And it doesn't matter what somebody's like as a human. All of them over there, once you transition, everybody is, it's just all it is love. In fact, I got these stickers made up that say all love is all there is, because that's just what he says all the time. Love is all
thank
there
you for
is. It's
saying
just
this. Yes,
love.
you tell this to people all the time. They say, well, they say, what about the drug dealers? What about this or that horrible kind of person? I say, God, God does not judge. We judge ourselves when we go there, that's why it's so important people learn to forgive so they can learn to forgive themselves when they get there, because the only judge you ever look in the mirror, that's the only judge. And that's
Yeah,
a hard judge to look at when you get
yeah,
there.
yeah. And
But
and Rob
God
also,
doesn't judge us ever. God only loves us. And nobody believes that when what, please say that to people again. This is now Rob is a certified, he's got a special certified sticker right on his chest. He is a certified person who is there right now. And what did he say to his mother? He said this beautiful thing. He said the man who sold him the drug that killed him is as important to his journey and should be loved as much as anybody else who has been in his life, should not be judged by anybody in his family or by anybody else. Thank you,
and,
Rob. That is a
yeah,
beautiful thing for you to teach.
yeah. And
Wow.
he really shares too how often the people that raise their hands to play our tormentors in this lifetime are doing it out of love. They raise their hands before we incarnate. I refer to it as the starry waiting room between lives. And before we incarnate, Rob goes, okay, well, this lifetime I need to learn this and this, and I'm going to go out early. And my mom's already had one kid that had an illness, and if it were an accident, it would just be another tragedy. I'm going to go out with, I mean, and this is all stuff Rob has shared with me. I'm going to go out from a drug overdose because I know my mom will make sense of that. And I do. Now I take my speaking skills. I have spoken in sober living houses, jails, to police departments. I want to spread the word. And so he said, Ethan raised his hand and said, I'll be the drug dealer. I'll be the one that sells him those drugs. And this young man had a horrible life. He was addicted to meth by the time he was 12. He was abused repeatedly by his mother's revolving door boyfriends. I mean, he's like, Mom, he raised his hand to be in the place where he could sell me those drugs. And he had a horrible life. Rob had a great life. He was an athlete. I mean, he went to he was a tennis pro. He went to college and played collegiate tennis. I mean, he's like, I got to have this beautiful life. And Nathan lived this horrible existence so he could stand in that space to help me on my journey. Now, how can we not love him for that?
Of course. Wow. Wow, 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 wow.
I
That
know.
is a big lesson for everybody listening to take away. You gotta love that drug dealer
Yep. Yep.
because he volunteered. I will do that for Rob.
Yep. And
So
for
he
all
can
of
get,
us,
and for all
all
of
of
us.
us who are growing and learning, and yeah, for all the mamas that now get to connect with their kids through my program, those people that get to read my book and find healing because he raised his hand to sell Rob the drugs. I mean, it's when we can shift our perspective
I
instead
try
of
so
making
hard to
people
teach them
villains.
too. Kim, nobody believes me when I say these things. They don't believe me. They do not believe me because they're standing on earth, which is this
Mhm.
puny little lousy one-room schoolhouse. That's all it is. Nobody believes me when I tell them the truth.
Yeah.
My God, that's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Ah,
It's a powerful way to shift. And I think it's also how we heal because when we hold on to that, and I've worked with mothers whose children have been murdered and, horrific things. But when that's what we hold on to, we suffer. We
oh,
suffer.
absolutely.
Not the person that perpetuated the crime. We're the ones that suffer. And I remember when Chelsea died. I just remember thinking when they said, "Oh, you'll never get over it." And I just remember thinking, if life will never be the same, which after losing a child, life will never be the same, then I only have two
Will be the
choices. Like,
same, but
right, life can get better or life can get worse. And I thought, I am not going to let life get worse for Chelsea having been here. So I am going to do everything in my power to make this
I
world a
am
better
never
place.
going to let life get worse because Chelsea was here. That's another beautiful thing. Every time you open your mouth, you say something fantastic.
Oh, you're precious. Thank you.
That's another beautiful thing. Honor your child's life by making your own, by learning and by making your own life better, and then by teaching those lessons to the world. That is just such a beautiful idea. Yes, 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 of course. And think of all the people that we now think are terrible. We take it upon ourselves to judge
Yeah.
all these horrible people who have done horrible things, but who instead, in the life planning that went on ahead before everyone was born, they raised their hands and said, I'm going to do that hard thing for you to help you with your lesson. And they became, what was his name?
Well,
What,
his
what,
name's Ethan, but in the book I say Nathan. So, um, yeah.
they became, instead, they became the Nathan.
Hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
And lived a really hard existence. And I know that, so I always want to be sensitive to people. In fact, my editor, when she read that chapter, she's just like, Kim, I don't think we can leave that in there.
Yeah,
She
you
said, I
do.
think, pardon?
Yeah, you do have to leave that in there. Of course
Yeah,
you do.
yeah, yeah. And
That's
that's what I said.
that
I
may
said,
that may have been the most important thing you left in there because there are a lot of great, I get to see them, so I can tell you there are a lot of very good books that are not that different from yours about parents triumphing over grief and then teaching.
mm,
There are very few chapters that tell that truth, and that is a truth that has to be understood now. People have
yeah.
to begin to understand that it's not up to them to judge the Nathans at all. Those Nathans gave a powerful gift.
And our culture doesn't understand that. We come from a culture that wants to blame and wants to project. And when we can get into the divine flow and the divine rhythm, and again, my career for 20 years has been focused on happiness. And what I have devoted my life to, the reason that I get on a plane and fly across the country and leave my family is to spread the message of happiness. And if we want to truly be happy, we have got to let go of all that stuff. We can't judge. We've
Yeah.
got to find gratitude for all the experiences life sends us. It's easy to be grateful for the good stuff, but I am grateful. I am grateful for Rob's death. I am grateful for Chelsea's death. I am grateful for what I have learned. I am grateful for the time I had with them. We have to put our focus on that. Now, the 6 7 months after Rob died, I say I was in the belly of the whale. I mean, I went deep. I
Yeah.
did my work. I connected with Rob. I did grief recovery. I actually the
That's the
grief
hard part.
recovery
That's
methods.
a very hard time.
Yeah,
Absolutely right.
yeah, yeah. So I felt all the feelings. It's not like I did the spiritual bypass and just went, I'm good. I wasn't good
No,
for a
no,
long time, but
right.
I did the work and came out of it on the other side with a whole new understanding of life and death. My daddy was a minister. He was in the pulpit. He was a United Church of Christ minister. He was in the pulpit 2 weeks before he died. I mean, still had an active congregation. He loved being a minister. I grew up in a very strong Christian home. I am the last person who would have ever thought I would be talking to my child from the other side. And I've had to reconcile that.
I
I've had to
understand. Yeah.
reconcile that this does not go against my beliefs or against
It
what
does
I
not,
was taught.
no, no.
It doesn't go against it, just opens it, expands it. It's like, oh, I realize now my concept, the God is so big. The God I believe in is so big. Of course,
Oh, so
God,
big.
it's
Yeah.
okay with God for us to talk because
God is nothing but love unbounded.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think 100 years from now, when everybody is communicating with people on the other side, I mean, they'll listen back at this and think, oh, that poor girl thought that was odd to be talking to somebody. Now it's like, of course, everybody knows you can do that.
Yeah, they'll be talking right at the funeral. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
gonna be, they're gonna ask the person who just so recently died, would you like to come up and say a few words?
Yeah. Rob was so present. Now, I wasn't communicating with him yet at the funeral, but my friend Eve, who was communicating with him, gave me a 10-page lowdown on everything Rob was saying. Some of that's in the book about what he was saying at the funeral. She's like, he's getting in front of each of you and going, I'm right here. I'm right here. You don't need to be so sad. I'm right here.
Oh, they do that. Oh, they do. They always, nearly always, they go to their own funerals. Yes.
Mhm.
As
Yeah.
long as they were not very damaged before they transitioned by illness or something that really,
Yeah.
but wow, that is so,
Yeah.
oh, I can't tell you how excited I am that people are hearing what you have to say because it's coming right, right from
Yeah.
the source.
Yeah. Well, you provide that opportunity. So thank you.
Well, we'll have you back. We're going to have to keep talking
Yes, I'd love that.
so that people can keep hearing this. This is what people have to hear. And
Yeah.
yes, grief is great. Grief is something you have to go through. It's something that you process, and then it's something that you use as it's an impetus that yes, you can talk to and listen to the people that you love. And it's using that opportunity is a great thing. But don't keep trying to, if you go from medium to medium, I can tell you from personal experience, they're going to stop showing up. That's what, because I was testing mediums at one point, and what happened is, for the first couple of mediums that I tested, all my people showed up, all my wonderful loved ones showed up. But after that, it was like they didn't want to bother. I mean,
Yeah.
they have stuff to do that is much more important than keeping telling me. They knew I knew that they were fine. So, talk to one, talk to two, but that's it. That's it. Then after that,
Well, I am not a medium. I do not have that gift. And I'm astounded by what some of them can do. And I also feel who has more of a right to connect with your kid than you? Like
yes. So
there's a
you
you.
are teaching people to just connect directly, which I think is terrific. I just think that's
Yeah.
terrific.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to be able to help them navigate that. So
So this will be in the notes. And she's going to keep giving these lessons apparently, so everyone line up and have the lessons and really learn how to do it.
it's been beautiful. You know, some mamas have two or three burning questions they want the answer to. And then once they get the answers to those questions, they feel so much better. Some want to keep having an ongoing dialogue. For me, Rob has kind of stepped into the role as one of my guides at this point. He, you know, is just right there all the time. He's just always with me. And some mamas want that, and some are good with just checking the box and
Yeah. There are people listening probably who think they can never triumph over it. It's not, it's the hole in their life is just too great. What would you say to them?
well, you know, we all have that choice. You have that choice to stay in that place and let the death of a loved one, you know, be your story for the rest of your life, to live in sadness. You also have the choice to to decide that there is another way, to believe in the signs and the symbols, to believe that that was their destiny. To, I mean, I know without a doubt, and it's funny, I remember this from when Chelsea was 2. I was in Walmart shopping, and I don't remember what I was looking for, but this woman came up and she said, "I'm so sorry I couldn't make Chelsea's funeral. We lived in a small town." And she said, it's just so tragic. Her life was cut short." And before I had any conscious thought, I said, her life wasn't cut short. She lived every day she was meant to. And I remember, like, I went home and I was like, well, where did that come from? You know, so it's somewhere I had that knowing, but and Rob has affirmed it, and this book will affirm it for people. There are no accidents. Their life was perfect. It's
Yeah,
what they agreed to before they incarnated. It was their soul contract.
yeah,
However, they went out, they didn't go out a day too soon, and they didn't go out a day too late. And
yeah.
nobody is responsible. There's so many mamas with so much guilt, especially when a child dies of drugs or suicide, because they think, oh, they should have been able to do
They
something.
should have done this,
There's
they should have done that.
Yes,
Yes.
there's nothing you can do to stop somebody's soul destiny. There's and if you could, I hope you wouldn't, because that was what they chose before their incarnation. And when we can come to the place of knowing that our loved one's life was perfect and they are the one that died, not us. We're still here. So we still have work to do. We still have, you know, joy to give and experiences to have, and that's why you're still here. and
That's
and
right.
and I don't, and I will also say there's a chapter in here on grief, and Rob talks about how you have to feel the feelings. You know, you have to feel it. There's great grief recovery out there. I about 4 months, if we believed in accidents, Rob had been gone about 4 months when I asked a friend for a referral to her therapist. And when her therapist sent me an email, on the bottom it said grief recovery specialist, and my friend was seeing her for anxiety. I'm like, what is this grief recovery specialist? And it's a body of work. It's a 7-week program. I'm like, how can you help somebody with grief in 7 weeks? But you know, I'm 62 now. It was like, I don't have 10 years to figure this out like I did with Chelsea. It's like, I got to get to the crux of this. It is a powerful program. I went and got certified in it. But there is a grief recovery specialist in every town in America. There are, I think, over 4,000 or 5,000 grief recovery specialists, people that can do it in person, people that can do it online. You can read about it on my website. You can go to their website, get the help. I say to people, your grief doesn't get better with time. Your grief gets better when you deal with it. It is the hardest work I've ever done. Grief work is uncomfortable. It is heart-wrenching. But when you come out on the other side of it, it is like you are set free. On For me, it was so profound. It was such profound work. And you know, so feel what you need to feel, get the support that you need, deal with the grief, and then go on and live a life you love. You're still here. That's the best way to honor those that have gone before
That's the
us.
best way to honor,
Yes,
yes, those you love, those who
yes,
are still here, those who have gone ahead. because you're all going to be together again so soon. You will be
Yeah.
amazed to see how quickly that happens.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
nobody ever dies. So they'll all be there. And that includes all the animals you've ever loved too. Even
Yep. Yep.
even the ones that maybe you just as soon have them go on to some
Yeah.
little else. If you loved them, they're going to be there.
Yeah.
Oh, my dear one, this has been so great.
Oh, it has. Thank you so much.
Stay right there. I'm just going to tell everyone about Mikey going to be with us next week. I'll be right back.
Okay.
This has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. I am very glad you could be with us today because I think of all the guests we've ever had, Kim comes closest to be the one who has handled this the way I would handle it if I had ever had this kind of death in my life. Please never forget, ever forget that you never began, you never will end, and that's true of everyone you love. And when you get all of that, it transforms your whole life forevermore. Next week, our guests are going to be our dear friends, Carol and Mikey Morgan, who will be with us again for a wonderful 27th time. Mikey is, in fact, a sixth level being. He was perfected back in the 1600s. He was an overachiever, but he was so concerned about how things have been going on Earth, which is not that well, that in 1987, he took an additional optional lifetime that ended for him in 2007. That was his last of two exit points. He was 20, so that was just so he could come back and teach us like a modern American 20-year-old. He teaches us through Carol, his mother, who swears she never would have signed up for this. But she did. And we actually have a lot of fun whenever they come and join us. People have sent in questions, and if you have questions for Mikey, just send them to me at info@robertagrimes.com, and they will be in the list. There are a few extras in the list beyond what we'll talk about next week, but your question will come up pretty quickly. And this week we've been talking with Kim Hodous. Now, Kim was a real surprise for me because I think she is a godsend. Kim has lost two children in her life, and she teaches now the kind of thing that Mikey teaches about what Kim and her son Rob teach, what only people who really know the truth can teach about what is real about our lifetime on earth, which is that it's just really a bad day in school, and what's true about grief. I mean, yeah, it's a rough patch, but you've got to try to get past it because I mean, I cannot say enough good things about what Kim is sharing now. She's going to come back. She's probably going to become a regular with us because what she has to teach is pure truth. Her book is called Beyond Grief: How a Son's Afterlife Connection Transformed a Mother's Loss into a Remarkable Spiritual Journey. And her book is truth. It's worth buying just for that one chapter where she talks about where the guy who knowingly sold the fentanyl that killed that boy, Rob, when he was just under 30, he was all part of the life plan. He was part of the life plan. He gave a gift to all of us. He's now going to be in prison till he's 71. And that's a gift he's giving to us too. Every time you read about some horrible person who has committed some horrible crime, be aware of how it looks to God. And that's all we should care about. My darlings, please enjoy, please make the most of this coming week in our one reality, always knowing that you are a powerful, eternal being. But this is just Earth school. It's only a bad day in school. Very soon you are going to go home to be with your father, with your brother, and with all your beautiful siblings around you. And you, most of all in this entire universe, never forget that you are infinitely, eternally, perfectly, and forever loved.